It's just like he didn't.
And of course, the one in Killer
I'm gonna turn the microphones on now.
that building.
Yeah, but you
Hi.
pulled your building inside. Yeah, you pulled right inside and all the lumber
You're
was
right
in
on
there
time.
and everything. The communication. And communication.
From our Kill Devil Hills family to yours, we wish you a safe and festive holiday season. Merry Christmas.
No Grinches here.
There.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I call the December 9th, 2024 Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I invite everybody to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone's invited to please join us in a moment of silence. All right. Our next item of business this evening is agenda approval. We have an agenda before us. Any discussion?
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. Public hearings are next. Casey, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. And there's two public hearings tonight. As always, the following rules are going to apply to these hearings. Public notice of the hearings was published in the newspaper and posted on the town bulletin boards and website, which meets or exceeds statutory requirements for the subject matter. Copy of the notice was also filed with the town clerk for entry into the official record of the proceeding. Town clerk's going to be recording all comments in a concise and brief manner. Submitting written statements will be recorded in a similar manner and also made part of the record of each hearing, so long as they're submitted in full to the town clerk. If anyone speaks tonight at either public hearing, you must come to the microphone and identify yourself by giving your name and address. Obviously, no debates during the meeting. Comments relevant to this particular matter will be limited to 3 minutes for an individual. But if you're speaking on behalf of a group, a 5-minute exception will be made, or if you had submitted in writing to the town clerk. So the first public hearing will now come to order, and this hearing is called for the purpose of the Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners to consider the following. And this is A on your agenda: proposed zoning amendment. Chapter 153.076, off-street parking and loading. Modify the minimum parking space size and table of parking requirements. Proposed zoning amendment to 153.002, definitions. 153.06, off-street, referring to parking. If there's anyone interested, I guess first, anyone sign up?
One has been submitted electronically. You can forward it to the board.
Okay, all right. And board, what the clerk told me, there was a comment submitted electronically that's been submitted to you guys, obviously, for any consideration you must give to it. However, it is now part of the record. Given we don't have anyone signed up in the audience, I'll call from the audience. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this particular public hearing involving parking? Okay, awesome.
Hi, Kim James, 404 Holly Street. Concerning the parking, I would like the board to consider what problem they are fixing by requiring 20% more parking, by doing what the state is requiring as the minimum. It feels like that there is a punishment being applied for meeting the state requirements. And also just wondering how the parking space size creates a requirement for additional spaces.
All right. Anyone else from the audience on this particular matter? All right. So we will close public comment now, and I'll turn it over to you guys for discussion and ultimately a vote.
All right. Cameron, would staff maybe give us a little bit of a backstory on this ordinance so maybe folks understand it better?
All right, so going back to House Bill 600, this came into effect January 1st this year of 2024. And this was a statutory change to 160D 702C2. And this is grant of power, and this is where the local governments are given authority to have zoning regulation. And there was an amendment to, or an added clause for that restricted local government from requiring a parking space to be larger than 9 feet by 20 feet, unless it's handicap, parallel, or diagonal. Now, the town standard for a long, long time now has been 10 foot by 20 foot and has been an effective tool. However, to be compliant with the statutes that have been adopted, what we've got in front of you tonight is 9 foot by 20 foot is an allowable parking space size. But because of that smaller space, especially at our commercial developments, multifamily, the minimum requirement is increased by 20%. And that's because we don't feel that 9 by 20 really provides adequate width for a parking space. Like I had stated at the planning board meeting, the width of an F-150, which is a pretty common vehicle, is like almost 8 feet 4 inches. So when you open 2 doors wide, it just does not work. And when you come into a parking lot, 10 foot's been an adequate space size historically. So we're not saying you can't use 9 by 20, but we're recommending that they need to provide more spaces because we do not feel that people will park in every single space at 9 foot by 20 because you won't be able to get out of your vehicle. However, for single family development, we are still recommending a 9 foot space compliant with the statute because these are usually, single load parking spaces. And, a lot of under house parking is typically, underneath pilings or, between pilings. So it won't have that effect like it would in a parking lot. So that's what you're looking at tonight is an amendment to that table that requires 20% more if you don't use the recommended size of 10 foot by 20. One other thing to note about parking space size is for like commercial, for like a retail business, for example, the parking space size is 1 parking space per 200 square foot of space. That worked really nicely when you had and it's usually 100, 200, 400. And that was due to that number of parking spaces was a nice even number. And it really is how our land use regulations have regulated density. So the size building is usually offset to how many parking spaces were required. And it's one of the main ingredients for some of our land use. So for consistency with other land uses, that was also one of the driving factors to recommend that 10 by 20. So unless you have any other questions, that's pretty much the gist.
Any comments or questions? Seems like common sense.
We've been over it.
I understand I understand the desire to I understand 10 by 20 and that's that size is more desirable out here and it's what we've been doing. But why pick 20%? Why not 10% or 5% or 8% or 18% or 30%? Why 20%?
Yeah. So looking at the difference, the square footage of a 9 by 20 parking spaces versus a 20. If you did a clean wash, it's a little bit more like 10%. Mm-hmm. But in trying to incentivize the parking space we think is the right size is why we chose 20% to really try and incentivize that 10 by 20 parking space. So you can still do it, but you're gonna need to provide more parking spaces.
Okay. I was just asked, Commissioner Gray. I know you sometimes think we're over parked, and we've talked about that in the past. Wouldn't this just potentially increase that almost in a way?
I think in certain areas it is, like if you look at banks and things like that, most people do electronic and you don't see that many people
Right.
as you used to.
Depends
But
on the industry or what it's being used for.
But I agree with this 10 foot. you know, because, number one, it's consistent with our land use plan, correct? Yeah, and, so,
Well, it keeps things consistent. I mean, it keeps things consistent for us.
and it's what we've been doing,
Yeah.
and I agree, you know, a pickup truck is a pretty good sized vehicle. And if you go in 9 foot, you're gonna have a hard time getting out of it.
So most people will opt for not that 20%. I mean, it probably will be effective, will it not?
If we were to take no action, what you're going to get is bigger buildings in the same amount of parking.
Yeah.
Because it's based off square foot.
Right.
But the single-family dwellings, it will be an advantage to single-family dwellings that are trying to do an addition. When you do an addition, you have to bring your parking into compliance, or you add a bedroom, you have to bring your parking into compliance, and that change that the 9 by 20 may be helpful for some of the single-family dwellings that we're dealing with.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing no more comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt 153.076 off-street parking and loading, modify minimum parking space size and table of parking requirements is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Kettleville Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it meets the statutory requirements while also promoting safer parking areas.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, first public hearing passes. Casey, back to you, sir.
And now the second public hearing will come to order. And this hearing is called for the purpose of the Board of Commissioners of Kildover Hills to consider the following. A proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 153.002 definitions, Chapter 153.06 off-street parking and loading, Chapter 153.096 permitted use ocean impact residential zone, and Chapter 153.100 site requirements ocean impact residential zone. And which we'll be considering is defining large single-family dwelling. You require an access aisle and apply floor area ratio, otherwise known as FAR, for large single-family dwellings, meaning over 6,000 square feet. Do we have anyone signed up? And again, we'll reiterate that there was a written statement from the Unranked Home Builders Association that you guys have received. It is part of the record and for your consideration. So, and obviously any issues raised within there between, I think, planning and myself, hopefully we'd be able to answer those if needed. But nobody signed up. So I will call from the audience then again, and this is again on agenda item in the public hearings number B. Yes, ma'am.
Hello again. My name is Julie Owens Robinson, and I own a historic landmark cottage at 2019 South Virginia Dare Trail. I'm here tonight to just reiterate some things I've said in previous meetings. Again, I want to thank the Planning Board, Planning Department, Board of Commissioners for the Planning Department for bringing these new recommendations and regulations forward, and for all of you for considering them and hopefully approving them tonight. For those of you who don't live near these large structures, these event homes, I just want you to know that the issues are real. The lack of privacy, the noise, the extra traffic, all of these things are real problems. The overcrowding on the beaches is really a problem. The area where we live in Kildover Hills, if you go from the beginning of the John Yancey property to 8th Street, there are several condo buildings there. There are 2 large hotels and now 3 of these large event houses with another one planned. And I calculated, in very general calculation, if they were all rented fully, that's like 700 to 1,000 people in about 2/10 of a mile. So that's a lot of people to put out there on the beaches. And I can tell you that when we're down, we have to go down about 7 o'clock in the morning to put out an umbrella, just so we'll have a place to sit later on in the day. A lot of times when we go back, somebody's sitting right on top of it. So overcrowding on the beaches is definitely a problem. Also, the way the structures are built with the huge walls, it does block the breezes. We are in an old cottage where we like to keep it open and enjoy the porches. And in the summer, a lot of times with the south breezes, we rarely feel them like we used to. It also has a problem with blocking some of the views, and the aesthetics of it is not very pleasing to the eye. But most importantly to me is the safety aspect. And I think requiring an access aisle and restricting the stacking of the car parking in the parking lots is so important. I've said it before. There has to be a way for emergency vehicles to get up to these houses. We've watched as even with access aisles, these cars have tried to get out of the driveway and they're having to back out on the highway. And there are a lot of pedestrians in that area as well. So I just thank you for considering these recommendations and regulations. I think the mayor said it well at a previous meeting that it's time to find a balance between the developers of these large houses and those of us who own smaller and older cottages. We all need to be able to enjoy our properties. So I thank you for looking to find that balance. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? All right. Turn it over to you guys.
Okay. It's something we've studied at length over the last year or so. Any questions or comments before we consider taking action?
I just want to thank staff for getting us to this point, honestly. And it was a lot of hard work, and you guys did a great job in putting the presentation together and making it understandable for everyone.
I just wanted to reiterate the importance of the aisle, you know, for fire trucks and emergency vehicles. It's a must. I mean, you have to have access to get up in there and be able to do what you need to do in the case of an emergency. So I just want to reiterate the importance of that.
Yeah, I agree. That's something we wanted to do for a long time, and didn't really know exactly how to do it or if we were allowed to do it or what. And now that we've come up with a determination that we can do it, we're potentially saving lives and making it easier for our fire department to handle any emergency like that. So that's good. I have some reservations about numbers and not arbitrary, but I have some issues when you pick a number. Even with the last one, it's a number. Numbers are important, and I have some reservations there, but I do think it might be time. I'm not, it might be time to pump the brakes. So, and this is a good opportunity to do so today. So.
I think it's a good plan.
I think this has been a long time coming, and I think this has been well reviewed and is just about as fair as it gets. Those are my thoughts.
All right. Well, I'm pretty much in step with everything that's been said. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt 153.100, 153.076, 153.096, 153.100. Define large single-family dwelling, require an access aisle, and apply floor area ratio for large single-family dwellings is consistent with all comprehensive plans and other official adopted plans of the town of Kettle Hills that are applicable. The amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it promotes safety and appropriately regulates density, bulk, and parking for large family dwellings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. That gavel was a little more fun than I thought it was going to be.
You'll be sitting right here. But
Yeah, we find more opportunities to sneak that out from time to time.
find a piece of velvet or something.
Yeah. All right, now it's the time we set aside for public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any topic of their choosing. We do ask when you are called upon, approach the podium, speak into the microphone, and identify yourself by name and address. There will be no debates. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you are speaking as an individual, and 5 minutes if you're speaking as a group. We'll open it up if anybody else would like to speak. Any subject? All right. No takers. Moving on. No response. Any ongoing business this evening? Committee reports? Nothing? No, we're zipping right along. Commissioner's agenda.
Nothing from me, sir.
Other than the fact that we're going to be having an application go to the GEACC, Killable Hills is going to request $5,000 from the LPDI program to develop a series of video segments for a citizens academy. Similar instruction to an in-person academy. The segments will highlight different town departments and topic areas. I think it'll be a good project. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank Rachel. She came up with the idea.
Did she? Okay. I knew it was one of the two of you. But that'll be going forward. And our next meeting is December the 19th. So.
All right. Anybody else for commissioner's agenda this evening? All right, we'll move on to mayor's agenda. I have a few things to share. First is our proposed 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule. I hope everybody's had a chance to look this over, and if everybody's in agreement, I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Got a schedule. Second item, a couple resolutions and proclamations. The first, item 2A, resolution reaffirming the town of Kill Devil Hills opposition to offshore drilling, seismic testing, and leasing. This is something we usually do every new board that we set, is renew this. And this fight may find its way back on the front pages again. So we need to gear up and start thinking about this sort of thing. And second resolution is a resolution in opposition to provisions in Senate Bill 382 affecting zoning authority of local governments. Been quite a bit of activity in the news and social media. And Commissioner Ingram, very nice job on your social media post on this subject. And I'll make a motion to approve both resolutions 2A and B, and happily entertain that. A second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to say Matt Walker's in the audience, and he was pretty instrumental in the original resolutions against offshore drilling. So just point that out. Many years ago. Yeah, many years ago.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. A few more items to share under Mayor's agenda. Tomorrow night is Right Lights Illumination. Our Right Lights Illumination Aviation Park is coming up tomorrow, December 10th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Families can visit with Santa Claus. We will be listening to music from the First Flight choirs. There will also be sleigh rides, a food truck, and an outdoor movie. And judging by last year's attendance and how popular our ice cream social was this year, I'm looking forward to a well-attended, fun time. And the pavilion that we use to set up Santa Claus in is very ideal for family Christmas pictures. So you want that free picture with Santa, like the Winleys do, by all means, take advantage of it when you can get it. First Flight holiday markets. For any of you who are last-minute shoppers, don't forget the town's last holiday market will be on Tuesday, December 17th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Aviation Park. I think all been very fun and well attended. Ms. James, I believe you're one of our merchants out there, so we welcome you and all of our merchants to come out and make it a fun event. A little cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yes, it was. Timing was right for the holidays. And KDH Holiday Drives, we encourage everyone to join and support the town's holiday drives, Toys for Tots, and the Children and Youth Partnership. Diaper Bank and donations can be dropped off through December 17th at Town Hall, the Fire Department, and the Recycling Center. One more piece, very selfish business I'm going to share. It's look around our board today, and I heard some real exciting news this weekend that my beloved East Carolina Pirates are going to play in the Military Bowl against the Wolfpack. And the way I see it, I see two Pirates and one Wolfpacker over here. So
Yeah, gambling's legal in North Carolina.
gambling's legal. We have to find. I think that, and you got the red and black on. You're very you were prepared. So looking forward to a fun game. Wish had to pick a cold spot for it, but I'm excited. We'll see how it goes.
By our next meeting, we'll know the result.
Yeah,
I think you have to wear red, or I'll have to wear purple.
that's well. I think we. I don't want to leave our other pirate out of the.
I like
That's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got plenty of purple, but
You both got red.
that's fair. We'll
Where do they play?
That's fair.
Where do they play?
Annapolis.
Annapolis.
So, yeah, Myrtle Beach would have been a little warmer. Would have always headed south the last week of the year, but yeah, it'll be a fun game. So that's all I have for a mayor's agenda, town manager's
No,
agenda.
sir, thank you.
Town attorney?
Nothing.
No, sir. All right. And consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Have 5 items, the minutes from the November the 18th, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting, the October 2024 monthly report, a budget amendment to recognize the Dare County Tourism Board grant funds receivable and dedicated shoreline CRF funds related to East Hammond Street beach access, the designation of official bank depositories. This is, as you saw in the finance director's memo, highlights the town's need to select a new firm to serve as the town's safekeeping provider, and approval of the consent agenda will approve the attached resolution and authorize staff to execute all the agreements that are necessary. And then lastly, the Board of Commissioners approves for staff to send a letter with the mayor's signature to opposed portion of Senate Bill 382. This was done before the resolution that you just adopted. This was done, I guess, sometime last week or the week before. So thank the board for the consensus to go ahead and do that. And staff would recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented, and a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, it's our last opportunity for public comments. Happy to open it up one more time. No. Well, that brings us to last piece of business this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That's a lot of work in 30 minutes.
No, it's not bad.
Good job.
Yeah.
27, really.
Merry Christmas,
good job.
everybody.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry
Absolutely.
Merry Christmas, darling.
If y'all want to watch real sports, Carolina women's soccer plays for the national championship tonight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, against Lake. Yeah.
Ooh.
So, AC